Hey guys, what is up? It is me, Pagey, here once again with another video on Superman and Lois Season 2, but also Season 3. So we are done with another season of Superman and Lois, even though it's only, Season 2. And of course, the finale for Season 2 was a major episode in regards to, like the scope of the show, as well as where the show is going in not only the near future, but just the future in general. Whether that is the start of a long journey or just a deviation to allow a good amount of creative freedom. That is for us to wait and find out. Now, we've already discussed that big reveal in regards to the disconnection from Earth Prime, as well as the showrunner's reasoning for why it happened, and why it took until the very end of season 2 to address it and confirm it. And if you want to see that video, of course, it will be linked in the description down below. But in this video, we are going to be going over the direct setup for a couple of different things in Season 3 from the Season 2 finale. These doing with new things on this new Earth in the multiverse, the Season 3 villains, yes, villains, not just one villain, as well as stuff to do with the new Fortress of Solitude and just new interesting things it could bring forward to one character in particular, but just the characters in the show in general. But of course, throughout the video, be sure to let me know in the comment section down below your various thoughts on all of this and what you're looking forward to the most in Season 3, based on the stuff from the end of Season 2 we do go over. And just let me know your opinions down there. And of course, if you're going to enjoy the video, want to show your support, you're looking forward to any of the stuff from this video, why not drop a like on the video to do all that. So the first thing to go over is that scene that involved John Diggle and leads us into Season 3's villainous side of things. So in the closing portions of the Season 2 finale of Superman and Lois, we had Diggle arrive in Smallville, this now being a completely new Diggle that we've never met before from some Earth in the multiverse, despite apparently this being the same Diggle we saw in Season 1, that name-dropped Crisis, Oliver Queen, and alluding to other heroes that he has worked with, which of course is very confusing, but anyway, this is what the showrunner Todd Helbing said in regards to all of that. He's a doppelganger. He worked with Oliver Queen, he worked with other heroes that as of now are unnamed, but yeah, he's just a doppelganger of John Diggle that everybody saw in the Arrowverse, which that statement sort of contradicts something that end sort of speech that Sam Lane gave that confirmed the separation from this show and the Arrowverse, but let's just go with it. But yeah, anyway, as confusing as that wasn't the point of the scene. That was just a side effect, the fact that this was a new Diggle that raises questions. The point of the scene was to set up one of the Season 3 villains and connect it to the fate of a character that has been referenced before and I guess seen in a still photo, that being this Earth's John Henry Irons. Not the one we have known for a while, as he of course is from another Earth, with it being revealed that this Earth's John Henry Irons, his death may be associated with Intergang and their leader, Bruno Mannheim. But you might be wondering, who the hell are Intergang and Bruno Mannheim in the larger scope of things, and where could that story lead? Well, first with Bruno Mannheim, he was one of the leaders of Intergang in the comics. There was a few different, people associated with Intergang and some leaders, one of them actually being Morgan Edge, and we should just assume he will be the leader and the familiar face to attach to this group whenever it comes up, whether it's in the public eye or just through places like Argus, the DoD, and our heroes. However, it wouldn't be too surprising if they do add a bit of a twist to this, which was actually also seen in the Earth Prime comic issue that revolved around Superman and Lois, where Bruno Mannheim had connections and relationships with powerful people and political people, specifically in Metropolis. So we could see that play out as well on the show, and I think this could lead to journalism being a major player in Season 3, at least in regards to this storyline. So we could see Clark use his power as Superman to save the day at times, but also have to work alongside Lois and Chrissy and harness that journalism side of his life to, save the day. I think that would be great, and it wouldn't be too surprising if this storyline mainly takes place in Metropolis, or at the very least outside of Smallville, or if they try to work the story to play out in Smallville again, I guess that could happen. But I think setting it in Metropolis or just some area outside of Smallville would be for the best, just to distance things a bit. And I don't know if it just, coincidentally everything takes place in Smallville, this really small town. It'd be random if that just happened every single season. So I think, at least in regards to this Intergang and Bruno Mannheim stuff, I think placing it in Metropolis would be the best way to go about it. And also Argus, where Diggle is associated, is based in Metropolis, so maybe that's the best way to go about it. But of course, with Intergang as an organization, they originally in the comics got their weaponry from Darkseid of all people, from Apocalypse, and I just don't see that playing out on the show. However, Intergang has already appeared in a way in Superman and Lois previously, and that was in season 1. So we had the character of Thaddeus Kilgrave, who was using advanced tech that was very useful against Superman. Now, I can't remember if at the time in that season where they mentioned if the tech was alien or not, but Kilgrave was assisting in the building of this tech that was used back in season 1. So maybe between then and season 3's events, like Intergang gains some like alien material. Maybe they use X Kryptonite as a power source for their tech. Kilgrave as a character was taken back to prison in that season 1 episode he appeared in, but he was broken out once before. So if they need him again, because they feel he's the best person to associate with building this tech or building more tech, I'm sure they'll break him out again. But this is what Todd Helbing said about Bruno, Mannheim, and Intergang leading into season 3. What we always try to do is set up a villain so that he or she feels like they're going after one specific person on our show, but then it spreads and you see how it affects everybody. So yeah, there's going to be a history with everybody with this guy. It's not just with John Henry Irons. So that sort of bleeds into like that journalism aspect where it might connect back to that Earth Prime comic, the Superman and Lois issue where Lois was attached to that. So maybe Lois has had run-ins with Bruno Mannheim or just people associated with him in the past. And maybe she's like someone that they are a bit suspicious of if she's ever around. But of course, Diggle set this up, and the intel is coming from Argus. So will Diggle play a part? So leading out of that scene in the finale, I thought it could easily be a possibility, at least for the start of it as well, that Diggle is like a recurring character and helping out. But this is what Todd Helbing had to say about that. We love David. He's fantastic. He's part of the family. He directed multiple episodes and he's going to do another next year. As far as him acting, we'll see what happens. I certainly love him every time he comes on our show, so I would be surprised if he didn't make an appearance. So he's not saying no, and he's a part of the setup for the storyline. So I think in some way he'll play a role. I just think they'll try and make it centered around characters like John Henry Irons, Lois, Clark, stuff like that. So you might get Diggle in 1, 2, maybe 3 episodes if we're lucky, revolved around this story. Now, Todd Helbing did say there's potentially up to 3 villains next season. He would only be set on 2 in interviews when asked about it, but there is a possibility of a third to still be decided, and it could be like 2 main proper threats, and maybe there's a third that is just like sort of roaming. That's a bit of an issue. It is important to remember that they probably wouldn't be like properly writing the show as of yet, like season 3 as of yet, just like the loose plot details. So that's something that like he'd be able to give a more accurate answer to in like the coming months, like the next month or 2. So yeah, 2 definitely, but maybe there's a potential third based off what he's saying. Now, right at the end of the season, we do see this new Fortress of Solitude be erected in the middle of the ocean. Dirty minds, don't laugh. Anyway, it's looking much more comic accurate than what we had before, and it will be cool to see what it looks like inside, of course. Like the other one was just like an icy cave with some stuff. Like that's pretty much what it was. So I'm assuming that this Fortress of Solitude is going to look a bit more comic accurate, a bit more cooler inside. At least that's what I'm expecting. But Clark does mention to Jonathan that there is Kryptonian tech within there. So it's heavily insinuating that this could be a storyline for Jonathan in season 3. Now, Jonathan is, of course, a character that a lot of people thought was sidelined in season 3, which I sort of disagree with because he was very relevant in the first half a lot, but like I'd say like the first 9 to 10 episodes. But it was that closing portion of the season where they clearly had zero idea what to do with the character and mainly just focused on the bizarro version of John. So that's, that character of course had powers and was like an antagonizing force for our hero, so you can understand that, sorry, but our Jonathan, the normal Jonathan, just sort of stood there and just wasn't happy. Like that's pretty much what they did. But this is how Todd Helbing explained the new Fortress of Solitude and its role moving forward into season 3. It's funny because in season 1, there was a scene at the end of episode 3 of season 1 where Clark shows up with the jacket with Jonathan and the football, and the intent was that he was going to take him to the fortress, but it didn't play that way. So the more we went along, the less it felt like Jonathan was a part of that world. As parents, sometimes you have different kids that, to pay more attention to for specific reasons, and obviously with Jordan getting powers and all the issues that he had, Clark really had to dive in on the Jordan front. So he's pretty much saying, yeah, they were going to do some stuff with Jonathan, with the other fortress and everything like that, but they put it to the, put it on the back burner. I think that's maybe the better decision, because I think the only issue was these last like handful of episodes in season 2 where Jonathan just felt like a non-entity. But now with this new fortress, it opens up the door to include Jonathan much more. I think that's the better way to go about it. But he does go on to say, we recognize for sure that Jonathan was not a part of this superhero world in a way that we wanted him to be, so it felt like a great opportunity to really include him more in that whole side of his Kryptonian heritage and family and the powers, and we'll see how Jonathan, what happens to him or how he gets involved in that, and we'll start exploring that in season 3. So in regards to how quickly they dive into that, that's another question, but maybe it folds into what's happening with those villains we mentioned earlier. So maybe with the Kryptonian tech, it's maybe played into the storyline to maybe combat the Intergang tech, or maybe Intergang somehow has their advanced tech at the beginning, but gets their hands on some of this Kryptonian tech, which allows them to enhance their own weapons and maybe make even more deadly weaponry than the original Kryptonian tech. That would be insane if that was to happen. So maybe it's misplaced or misused by Jonathan, which opens up the door to Intergang getting it, or they get their hands on it in some other way. I'm not too sure. However, there's one thing which I think I mentioned earlier in regards to Intergang, and that's X-Kryptonite. I just feel like it's not done with on this show. And also, earlier in the season when like Jordan sort of like fully embraced his powers and showed them to Lois, when they took down that like Smallville located X-Kryptonite like plant, they said that was, I think, just like a distribution center or something. Like it wasn't like the central hub of that operation. It was just like one little distribution place. So there is a much larger force at play connected to that whole X-Kryptonite business outside of Smallville, and they never went back to it. So is that going to be Bruno, Mannheim, and Intergang? Is that how they're enhancing their tech through, X-Kryptonite? We've seen, John Henry and Natalie using it to power their suits, so it could easily power weapons as well. So maybe that was them sort of planting the seed there. It seems like it could be easily. But going into season 3, the thing I'm looking forward to the most is probably this Intergang stuff, like specifically like the journalism side of it, just because it involves everyone, because you can get Superman going and doing his Superman stuff, but you get to have Clark and Lois working together as like a bit of a dynamic duo alongside of Chrissy, and it can get like that undercover sleuth sort of thing. You can sort of mishandle it, but I think they're going to do it in a pretty interesting way, especially if there is a couple of different storylines going on where you can sort of just do 5, 6, 7 episodes of it rather than trying to stretch it from episode 1 to I'd assume episode 15, like the first 2 seasons had. So that's an interesting storyline that, as I said, was, had a played a role in that Earth Prime comic. So if you want to get a bit of a taste of Bruno, Mannheim, Intergang, and Lois sort of investigating them, you can read that. I think that's issue number 2 of the Earth Prime thing. And those comics are canon to the particular show. So I don't think that comic says it's on Earth Prime, even though the comic series is called Earth Prime, but so is the Stargirl issues, and we know that's not on Earth Prime. So don't let that push you off reading it because you don't think it's connected to the show. But of course, I'm excited to see if they include Diggle. I think they will. I'd be very surprised if they didn't, just because you think you just use another character to set that up. Maybe like Sam Lane, if you had no intentions to use Diggle at all in that storyline. But yeah, guys, thanks for watching. Hopefully you enjoyed the video. If you did, it'd be awesome. You could drop a like on it, show support. Let me know in the comment section down below your various opinions on everything we went over. Always curious to read what you guys are thinking. And of course, if you are new to the channel, make sure to subscribe, and I will catch you guys later. Goodbye.